Having late payments on your credit drops your score like a rock. This affects you getting approved for credit cards, cars, and homes. So today I'm revealing all of the insider secrets to take care of those late payments from your credit report. Let's turn that payment history from red crosses to green check marks. In fact, I have applied these methods successfully with hundreds of clients that you can see here. So before I actually go over the step-by-step process, let's take a closer look at late payments and why they matter so much in the realm of credit. A late payment in the simplest terms is a payment on a credit obligation that you failed to pay by the due date. But how late a payment has to be to affect your credit can vary. Now the key factors are how recent was the late payment, how severe, and how many late payments you have on your report. The general rule is that a payment becomes officially late and reportable once it's 30 days past the due date. However, this can vary depending on the lender's policies. Some may not report it until it's 60 days late, while others may give you a grace period. But remember, once it's reported, it sticks to your credit report for 7 years, which feels like a lifetime, especially when you actually need your credit. Now, why does this matter? Your credit score, a number that rates your creditworthiness, is highly influenced by your payment history. In fact, payment history makes up 35% of your FICO score, and the FICO score is the most commonly used credit scoring model used by lenders. So to put that into perspective, if FICO credit scores range from 300 all the way up to 850, this means that there are 550 points in between them. 35% of 550, which would be roughly around 190 points. That's why when you have a late payment, this can drop your score by more than 100 points. There are 4 common types of late payments: 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and 120 days late payments. Sometimes you may see it go all the way up to 180 days late, but usually at that point, the lender probably charges off or they sent it to collections. So to be upfront with you, the more late payments that you have, the more difficult it would be to get them removed. For instance, if you have 1 or 2 late payments here and there, then you have better odds rather than having a multiple string of late payments, because this will get seen as a pattern and there's going to be way more receipts to back this up. But the good thing about late payments is that over time, they will tend to affect your credit much less. The newer the delinquency, the more effect it would have on your credit score. So let me show you a chart that's coming directly from FICO. As you can see, even in the first year, you will be labeled as very high risk. Now, that level of risk almost cuts in half in year 2. Then it slowly trickles down your risk profile after 4 years. Now, once the late payment is over 6 years, it will still have an effect on your credit score, but it is still possible to get an 800 plus score even if you have a late payment on your report. But it will not allow your credit score to be as high as it could be. Now, anytime that there is a late payment showing on your credit report, it can still be a factor when lenders are reviewing your profile and deciding whether or not they would want to lend you money. So based off the chart, it will be in your best interest to tackle late payments that are more recent, since they would have a higher impact on your credit score. So the older they are, if you were to remove them, yes, they could improve your credit, but not as much if it was something new. So what are some common reasons for late payments? Well, the most common one is just simply forgetting. I get it, life gets busy and it's easy to miss a payment. For others, it's financial hardship that can lead to late payments. Maybe you lost your job or had an unexpected medical expense. Sometimes it's just a matter or not of having enough funds in your account to cover an automatic payment, or maybe you moved and the billing statement didn't reach you on time. Understanding these reasons is crucial because it shapes the approach that we take to address and resolve late payments. But don't worry, whether your late payment is due to an oversight or a financial challenge, there are steps that you can take to remove it from your credit report. So first and foremost, you will need to get a copy of your credit report. In my personal opinion, it is best to get a credit report where you can see all 3 credit bureaus side by side rather than going directly through each bureau. So these type of credit reports are available from a variety of companies such as ScoreMaster, Identity IQ, or MyFICO. But usually anything that's simpler and easier in life usually comes at a cost, since with any of these companies that you decide to go with, you have to pay anywhere between $20 to $40 a month. Now, you can definitely do it the free route by getting a credit report from annualcreditreport.com, but it just takes a little bit of time on your end to try to figure out where's everything at. So let me show you a real example of a credit report from a client that was pulled from Smart Credit. So this is the main reason why I like credit reports from like ScoreMaster, Identity IQ, just because you get to see all the credit bureaus side by side and you can compare them line by line. Now, this is how actually credit repair agencies, and if you want to do your own credit repair, error. This is how you should actually look at your credit reports so you could identify any errors. So essentially, you would want to see everything line by line to see how they are. So let me zoom in a little bit. So the account information here is blurred for the client's privacy. As you can see right here, the high balance, this is 487. This is correct on Experian, but on Equifax is only 300. So there's an error right there. Last date of activity, last verified. Some of these are different. Usually, depending on how the credit bureau reports the information, if it's within the same month, that's usually fine. But if it's like different months and different years, then there's definitely an error going on. So the date reported, this one was in December, this one's in March, this one's in December. So there's probably something going on here with Experian. Now the date open, this one is the 15th, this one is in January. So that should be fine, okay? This shows when the account was actually closed. The other credit bureaus do not show that. The account rating, paid. Account description, individual, which is correct. Dispute status, none of these are being disputed. The creditor type. So this shows that this is a credit card, and this one shows that it is a mortgage finance company, which is definitely an error because it's labeled incorrectly. This one's labeled as a credit card, which is fine. So there's something going on with Experian. So anytime that there is inaccurate information in between any one of them and they don't all align accurately, you have the right to dispute them. Now, the account status, closed. Payment status, it shows that it's current. Other remarks, when it was closed, things like that. Payment amount, last payment, that looks fine. Past due amount, 0. Account type, credit card. So even though this one says that it's a mortgage company, but it says it's a finance card here, there's something going on with Experian, so that's something that I would definitely dispute. This one shows the credit limit as 300. This one shows as 0. See, sometimes Equifax has stuff labeled all incorrectly. High balance, it shows that it's 0. This one, high balance as you were, shows that it was 300, but it shows the credit limit as 0. So this kind of show that this client was overusing their credit limit. It's possible to delay payments and the interest charges. Now, where you want to focus most of your time is usually in the 2-year payment history part, okay? This is usually where you can see like the green check marks or red crosses, things like that. But this one looks a little bit different because you have to align the dates. As you can see here, this is 2023, it starts right here. This one starts right here, okay? And TransUnion, it starts right here. So they don't all look the same. So that's kind of where you have to like be in detective mode to see what's going on, all right? So this one is March of 2022. There was 30, 60, 90, 120 day late. So this was for Equifax. Let's check out Experian here. Experian 2022 here. See, for 2022 in March, this one says is okay. So there's some incongruent information here, okay? So it says okay, but the 30-day late doesn't even show up until September. By that time, on Equifax, it doesn't even report any more information. So there is some inaccurate reporting of late payments on Experian and possibly Equifax. So if you were to take this one's TransUnion on top, this is 2022, it doesn't report the late payment until May 30, like until May of 2022. See March, May, then it goes all the way up to 120 in August. See, there is incongruent information going on there. This one doesn't report late payments until like the end of the year. The thing about these type of accounts, you can even see like a summary here. At least it reports that there are late payments that are going on here. Like there's 30, 60, and 90. This is all correct here, but the time and the date is incorrect. So that's usually how you can spot these errors and you can actually dispute them with the credit bureaus, and that's how you can actually win your case. In your best interest to actually get a copy report like this and print out the sheet, and start marking it up and then like circle this, circle that, circle this, or whatever it is. Then whenever you dispute to each credit bureau, you can actually attach this file to show that you have proof like, hey, there's something going on here. You said that there's a report right here, but Experian says this, but TransUnion says that. And that's usually how the disputing process actually works. Okay, so once you have analyzed your credit report and know which late payments to tackle, the first way that you should actually tackle these late payments is by doing it via dispute letters. Honestly, I think that this is the best route to take since this is where I have seen the high success rate when it comes to deal with late payments. This is also what the majority of credit repair agencies still do to this day, so I'm gonna give you their exact strategy. Now, there is something that you have to be aware of when you're disputing late payments with letters, is that it can take anywhere between 1 to 5 rounds of letters to actually see some progress. So down in the description below will be a sample dispute letter that you can use and you can just modify to your own personal situation. So whenever you are customizing this letter, it is best to keep it simple and factual and straight to the point. Now, in this letter, do not try to beg or explain your situation because this letter is going to be sent directly to the credit bureaus themselves, and they really don't care. All they really care about is if the information is reported correctly. So before you send off this letter, there are a few things that I would recommend doing. First is by placing a security freeze with some of the most common public record credit bureaus, such as LexisNexis, SageStream, and Innovis. The first two companies, LexisNexis and SageStream, can be frozen all at one place. It's pretty straightforward, and I'll link it down in the description so you can do so. Once you receive an email or a mail confirmation that your accounts have been frozen, which can take anywhere between 72 hours all the way up to 30 days, then you can move on to the next step. If you don't hear anything within 3 weeks, then I would just start off by sending the letter anyways, because it can take some time for the letters to reach the credit bureaus. Now, once you have those security freezes in place, it is time to prepare your letter. So let's hop on the computer so I can walk you through it. So whenever you click on the link, just make sure that you make a copy of this letter so you're able to customize it, okay? So it's pretty self-explanatory. So just adjust the date to today's date or whenever you are planning to send out the letter. Next is to plug in your personal details like your name, your address, social security number. I would recommend at least putting your last 4. Sometimes it is better to have your full social just due to the fact that it could be a stall tactic from the credit bureau to be like, hey, we need to verify who you are. Can you send us a copy of your social? So that kind of like makes the process a little bit longer. So I recommend to have at least your last 4 there. And if you're comfortable, then put your full social. Next, your date of birth. Now we would want to put the credit bureau's address right here. This is also where we're going to be sending this letter. I will also list all the credit bureau's addresses in the description that you can just copy and paste into this letter, okay? This template is pretty straightforward. This is basically goes over that, hey, I noticed that there were some errors. This is the account name, the account number, whatever it is. So this could be like Chase, JP Morgan, whatever it is, account number XYZ 416, whatever it is. And the reason is like there are incorrect late payments displaying on my credit report from March 2022 all the way up to June of 2022. Now, for the first letter, you can just keep this as is, or you can just customize it to your own situation. And regardless, when the credit bureaus receive these letters, it goes through a automated system, right? And it scans the whole letter so they can know what's going on and what you're complaining about. From there, then they will do an investigation, all right? This will also tell them to, hey, send me an updated copy to the address above. Then from there, you should hear something back within the next 30 to 40 days. According to the FCRA, they have 30 days to investigate your dispute. If not, then they would have to update it as unverifiable, okay? So down here, you would just type in your full name, all right? I would not recommend signing it. Just type in your full name and that's perfectly fine. You can also write this letter if you would like. Anyway, if you download this letter, you could just change it and just send it off. So now before you send off this letter, just make sure that you include a photo ID, a recent utility bill, and sometimes I would even consider sending a social security card just so you don't get that stall letter saying that, hey, we need to verify it like I mentioned earlier. So the reason behind this is that the credit bureaus, they want to make sure that they have the right person and saying who you are when you are disputing items with them. Also, that credit report that you marked up earlier, you can actually attach that to the file or just print it out and make a copy and send it in the letter so you have further proof to resolve your dispute. So once you have your documents in order, now you would just send it to the credit bureaus where there is a discrepancy. So what I mean by this is that if there's late payments on just one credit bureau, then just send it to that one. For instance, if you only have late payments reporting on Experian, then just dispute with Experian. If there are late payments on all 3 of them, then you would have to make a separate letter and send to each 3 of the credit bureaus. Now, when it comes time to actually sending this letter, you can either send it by certified mail or first class stamp. Either way, it should not really matter. The credit bureaus get thousands and thousands of letters per day, so I feel pretty safe and confident just sending it by first class stamp and you should still get the same result. Now, this is just the first step of the disputing process because this process can go through multiple rounds and there's usually a lot of back and forth. But this will get the ball rolling for them to remove the late payment if it is indeed incorrect. So just keep in mind that this usually can take up to 5 rounds of letters of just going back and forth. And you really gotta be persistent whenever you are disputing. So now let's talk about the additional rounds that you may encounter if the late payments still remains on your credit report. So the first common reason is that you may not even get a response back from the credit bureaus. So let's modify this simple disputing letter that you were able to download earlier, and we can just say like, hey, respond to us, okay? So re-up here, you can just say that failure to respond. This you could leave as is. The account information, you could leave as is as well. So this is where you would want to make adjustments to the meat of the letter. So here's a prompt that you can actually put in. So freeze this video if you want to copy and paste this or just adjust your letter to this. It basically says that this is a formal complaint that you ignore my previous requests and fail to maintain reasonable procedures in your operations. Please refer to my previous letter that needs to be reinvestigated. This information must be deleted as soon as possible. The information is inaccurate and reducing my ability to buy a home, car, etc. or whatever you're trying to do with your credit, okay? Thank you for your time in this matter. Sincerely, your name. To send this letter after you have not get a response from the credit bureaus within 40 days. So with the credit repairing process, it is best to mark your calendar. If you have an iPhone or Android, make sure you set a reminder 40 days from the time that you sent out that letter so you can actually keep track of the time frames of when the credit bureaus will will get back to you. Because a lot of times I see a lot of people failing because they don't follow up. The credit bureaus, they're trying to just wait it out and hopefully you just forget about it, and it just makes it a little bit more difficult for you so they won't have to actually work on your issue. All right, now let's move on if you actually got a response back from the credit bureaus. So this is how I would actually respond back to them using our same basic disputing letter. So based on the information on top, the same, credit bureau the same, you could put disagreement with investigation. So you can leave this information as is. Then this is where you kind of ask for more information, that you disagree with the investigation response. The incorrect late payment below still appears on your report, and even after investigation, I would like these items to be reinvestigated right away for good reason. These mistakes have a significant impact to my credit score. So actually let's copy this and change this right here. This is make it sound a little bit more clean, because it says that the account information here, please provide more of the information during the investigation. Because a lot of times whenever you hear a response back from the credit bureaus, usually they will just send you like, hey, this information was verified, updated, or it was deleted. Okay, if it was deleted, perfect, no need to follow up. Usually it just says verified. They never say how they verified. They never told you like, this is how we investigated, this is who we contacted on this date, XYZ, whatever it is, of how we came to this conclusion. You usually just get a big printout of your credit report saying that this information was updated and verified. It really never goes into details like that, but according to FCRA, they're supposed to actually provide you with all the details of the investigation. So essentially you were just asking about this, the names, the addresses of who you contacted, how did you actually verify this information. So essentially you just kind of like poking them just a little bit more so they could actually do this. A lot of times they really don't want to actually provide the information of how they verified. It sucks because they actually control all of this information, but when you ask them like, hey, how do you actually prove that this is correct? A lot of times they don't want to share this information, and it takes longer to actually gather all this information to actually share it with you. So in this case, this would hopefully get the late payment removed from your report. Now, let's just say that they do come back and they provide you with the information, or they just showed you the same response after like the first letter saying, hey, this information is verified. Let's see how can we handle the disputing process during round 3. All right, so now let's go with round 3. Again, the top is the same. Basically, you're just a little bit more aggressive with your disputes, saying that you request to reinvestigate the information and you attach the prior correspondence. So it's a good thing that you do all this electronically, just so you can actually like have all this data and all this paperwork to actually back up what's going on. So essentially you're just keeping a paper trail. This is the account in question. Again, you would have to share your account. Remember, just pause this video, copy the exact information when you are doing your disputes. You're basically saying that, hey, I'm losing my patience. Like, what's going on here? Because a lot of times they just do send you like computer generated responses. I'll be forced to seek legal advice and submit complaints to the CFPB, which hint is like the next step, and the FTC and my state attorney general. Essentially, you just kind of like almost in a way like threaten them like, hey, if you don't actually do a real investigation, I'll be forced to seek legal action, or just take this one step further. Also, make sure that you correct this information and send me an updated report of my credit. And again, fill the same information, attach all the personal details, and just send it off to the credit bureaus. So one thing that I forgot to mention was that usually after the first round of letter where you send in your driver's license and utility bills, usually like round 2 and 3, you typically don't have to send that, just due to the fact that they already know who they're dealing with. But for me, I like to just put all the information there, just to know that there's no other reason of them slowing down the process, because there has been times where you go through like round 2 and 3 and they're asking to verify your information. So I just like to plug in all of my personal details, all the documents into the letter, just so to make sure that they actually have it. So as you can see, these are just some examples that you can actually take and just spin them and customize them towards your own specific situation. So again, just remember that this can actually go to 5 rounds. Now, anytime that you don't get a response back within 40 days, I would go ahead and send a non-response letter. Essentially what I showed you like a few rounds ago, saying like, hey, why didn't you respond? And just to nudge them a little bit so they can keep the process going. Now, if you don't want to monitor or figure out what to say next, I do have a DIY credit repair software that does make the credit repair process extremely simple. Now, this software can help you repair your credit for a fraction of cost of what you would have to pay a credit repair agency. It also allows you to easily dispute as many accounts as you want across all 3 credit bureaus. So if you have other things besides late payments, so this includes hard inquiries, collections, charge-off, and pretty much any other delinquency that you have in your account, the software can actually help you out with that. So with the software, you can actually create your own dispute letters in a matter of a few seconds, specific towards your situation, and you can just print them out and send them out whenever you're ready. So the reason why I like this is that it keeps it simple. So rather than you following up with the credit bureaus, the software will time and suggest a new strategy for additional disputes if it wasn't removed. Plus, you get additional resources on different strategies in a private Facebook group to ask questions, which I'll be there to help you out. So if you're interested in making credit repair a little bit simpler, I do have a link down in the description. Now, let's just say that after 5 rounds, whether you've done it yourself just with the letters manually or you use Credit Rehab Pro and you're not seeing any success from your disputes, I would go ahead and try this next strategy, which is filing a complaint with the CFPB. So this is a government agency that keeps all of the financial institutions in check, which also includes credit bureaus. So let me hop on my computer and show you exactly how to do this. Now just go to this website, consumerfinance.gov. This is the CFPB's website right here. And to submit a complaint, it's pretty simple. Just go to the very top, click submit a complaint. Then from there, you have to scroll to the very bottom. It tells you like, hey, things to do before you submit a complaint. All you have to do is just click this big button right here, start a new complaint. So from here, you would actually have to make an account just so they can actually follow up with you. Now, since I already have an account, I could just log in if you have not. So just plug in your personal details here, like your first name, last name, make a password, and all that stuff. Since I already have an account, let me just log in. So once you're logged in and ready to submit a complaint, this is what you would actually want to do. You would have to go to credit reports or personal consumer reports. Click on that. Since it's about your credit report, you want to click on credit reporting. Scroll to the very bottom and click next. Then on step 2, you would click on incorrect information on your report, which is this one right here. So which best describes your problem? This would be account status incorrect. Like it's showing up an open account when it's closed or a delinquent account when it's not. So just click on that. Have you already tried to fix this problem? Yes, you have, because you disputed with the credit bureaus. Did you request any information? Yes, you did. You want to ask for proof of how they verify the information? Just click yes. Right here, I usually just leave it blank. Did the company provide this information? No, they did not, because they didn't show you the verification information. Click next. So this is where you would have to describe of what happened and what you want to do. So I actually already made a little copy and paste thing that you actually copy and paste. So let me just put it in here. So right here, you would just plug in, I was reviewing my credit report and found some errors relating to my payment history on some accounts. The credit reporting agencies have the responsibility to report accurate information. I have never been late on account name. This could be Chase, the credit card, whatever it is, the account number. Please investigate these errors and remove the late payments if these cannot be verified. So you can actually use this verbatim whenever you are filing with the credit bureaus. So pause the screen, copy paste this, try that. Now, what will be a fair resolution to this issue? Essentially to update this information or remove them, okay? So essentially you would want to update and verify that these late payments are incorrect and to be removed from my credit report. So attach documents. This is where you can actually attach the credit report that we marked up earlier, or you can actually send any of the letters or the correspondence that you disputed with the credit bureaus. So once you're done that, just press next. Then from there, you would just click on who did you complain with. So this could be all 3 credit bureaus or just with one. Let's just say TransUnion is one of them. So TransUnion LLC. Now this is where you would have to plug in your information. I recommend plugging all of them as much as you can. Your social security number, date of birth, and your name. If you complain to any other company like Experian or Equifax, you can say yes as well. So essentially you're doing pretty much the same thing as you did up here. So for this example, let me just say no, click next. Then from there, it will say like, who are you submitting this complaint for? You would say yourself. Then after that, it would just verify all your personal details like your email address, ask for any other demographics. You could either answer them or not. Then at the very bottom, you could just press submit. Now, if you're still having problems trying to remove these late payments from your account and you've got no luck through disputing with the credit bureaus or even after filing a complaint with the CFPB, now it is time to ask for forgiveness. The next approach for tackling late payments on your credit report involves a Goodwill negotiation. You can do this either by calling the lender, sending an email, or through a traditional letter. Often the fastest solution comes from a direct phone call, but just remember that when you're opting for a phone call, this means that you are admitting that these late payments were your responsibility. It's kind of like a point of no return, because if you later choose to dispute these late payments, this conversation might be used against you as evidence. So only consider Goodwill requests only as a final option. So imagine that you're dealing with your local credit union. You would then want to call them up and have a chat with someone in customer service. This will be your chance to explain your reasons for the late payments, highlighting your loyalty as a long-term customer and asking if there's any chance that they can waive the late payment record. I would only recommend doing this once you have at least 6 months of on-time payments and signed up for automatic payments. This shows that you're back on track. Now, when you're on that call, kindness and patience goes a long way. Try to make a personal connection with the rep. Share how the late payment payment is affecting your life events like buying a house or getting a new car. It's about creating a win-win situation. They get assurance of future timely payments and you don't stress about missing deadlines. But remember though, automatic payments only work if your accounts have the funds to cover them. So let's say that your account that you have with that credit union is usually running low, or it doesn't really see regular deposits. They might view you as higher risk. The key thing to remember is that automatic payments is only good if you have the money in your bank account to cover the transaction. But just to set expectations right, even if you set up automatic payments, there's no guarantee that they will remove the late payment. So this is more of like a goodwill gesture that you're asking for. So going through this conversation, the rep may have to bring this to their higher ups, or it may take the right rep to actually help you out. But it is best to stay persistent, because at this point, there's really nothing to lose. Because the late payment is already on your credit report. You tried multiple rounds, you filed a complaint, and it's still on there. So the best thing they can do is actually say yes or just say no. Now, there has been videos that have been surfacing that says that late payments are illegal. This is just a myth. There is no legal standing that stops lenders from reporting late payments. They are completely within their rights to do so. So it's whether their choice to actually report them or not. Now, if you don't succeed on your first attempt with the customer service rep, don't lose hope, because you can just try again with a different service rep, because everyone is different and you might find someone who is more willing to help you on your next call. Now let's move on to the next tactic, which is somewhat similar to a goodwill negotiation, which involves reaching out not to a customer service rep, but directly to the company CEO through email. I know that you might be wondering, really? Can emailing a CEO make a difference? Surprisingly, it has worked for quite a few people. However, it is important to remember that it is unlikely that the CEO themselves will actually read your email. Usually it is an assistant or secretary that filters their emails first. This method is somewhat similar to disputing via phone. In your email, you would just detail your circumstances, mentioning any financial challenges that you face and how hard that you've worked to stay on top of your payment since then. Your ask would be a goodwill gesture to remove the late payment, as it's currently a barrier to securing new financing. So to actually find CEO emails, there's a handy resource called ceoemail.com. It's pretty straightforward, just like that. While not every email listed there might be correct, it is definitely worth a shot. So here's how the website will actually work. Now, all you have to do, go to CEO email. It will look something like this, okay? Don't get afraid if it just says for UK companies. It actually has US companies as well. Down here it has like a bunch of lists of companies. Now, let's just search for a company. So for instance, let's just say that you have late payments with Navy Federal. You click search. Then from there, scroll down a little bit. And it'll tell you like, hey, this is the company here, US. This is all the information here. So let's click on Navy Federal CEO email and address. So this is CEO's email, Mary McDuffie at navyfederal.org. All right, this is also the phone number as well. This 800 number seems like is a generic number, but you can definitely try out this email and you would just plug in whatever we spoke about earlier about forgiveness, saying that, hey, we're going back on track, and hopefully you can get the late payment removed from sending out this email. Again, you just have to think about it this way. What do you have to lose? The late payment is already a negative on your record, so reaching out could only potentially help your situation. Now let's go over the next method, which involves drafting a goodwill letter sending directly to the lender. So this letter is going to be very similar to the previous two, since you're just asking for forgiveness. So actually during the pandemic, a lot of financial institutions showed the willingness to offer goodwill adjustments, especially for those with a solid payment history, a strong relationship with the institution, and a compelling heartfelt story. However, the success with this approach can vary depending on the lender. Some, like Capital One, may be less helpful. But in the last couple of years, there has been a noticeable shift, with many lenders being more open to removing late payments, particularly to those that are related to COVID-19 reasons. Now, it is important to note that goodwill letters are the most effective if you only had 1 or 2 late payments. If your history shows a pattern of late payments, getting them removed will be much tougher unless you have a really convincing story. You should also have shown that you've been back on track for at least the past 6 months. Now, it really wouldn't make sense to request for forgiveness if you're still behind. I do have a goodwill letter template that you can find in the video description. Simply, you just fill it out, send in your details, and send it off. Or you could just write one your own and just explain it in your own words and just send it to the lender. So the essence with a goodwill adjustment, whether over the phone, via email, or through a letter, is just to strike an emotional chord. You really need to show your loyalty to the company, explaining the reasons for your late payments, and try to get empathy from the person on the other side. So when mailing this letter, unlike disputing with the credit bureaus, you don't need to include your driver's license or proof of address. just include the account number for easy identification. So to find a mailing address for any lender, all you gotta do is just a quick Google search, and that usually does the trick. For instance, searching for Chase mailing address usually leads to a page with a relevant address. This method usually works for most financial institutions, and you should be able to find this online easily. Now, let's address late payments on accounts that are already closed. Firstly, it is important to recognize that since the account is closed, typical strategies like negotiating for automatic payments, reaching out to the CEO, or sending a Goodwill letter really won't be as effective. There's no ongoing relationship with the lender, which reduces their incentive to help. So the best course of action is to dispute the late payment directly with the credit bureaus. After opening a dispute, if the credit bureaus confirm that the late payment is accurate, your next step is to go through the late payment process that I mentioned earlier in this video. According to the Fair Credit Reporting Act, credit bureaus are obligated to investigate your dispute and respond within 30 days. Now, sometimes the credit bureaus do not respond to your letters right away. Sometimes you may get lost, or sometimes they're just not responsive. If this is the case, then I would go through the CFPB strategy. So when it comes to closed accounts, it is usually more effective to dispute late payments that are older, ideally over a year, because recent late payments are going to be tougher to challenge. The more recent the late payments are, the more difficult it will be to get them removed. So just to be honest with you guys, removing late payments from your credit report are usually challenging because given the accurate nature of these records. But nonetheless, it is worth attempting if you want to clean up your credit. But remember, the impact of late payments does diminish over time. For example, a 6-year-old late payment won't prevent you from achieving a decent credit score in the mid 700s. However, the more recent ones can significantly impact your score in the short term. Before wrapping up, I would like to mention that all the resources discussed will be linked in the video's description. Now, if you have late payments, but you also have hard inquiries or collections that you want to remove, check out these videos over here.